square root of 2 is an irrational number. It cannot be written as a ratio of two whole numbers. The answer is true, but we have to prove that it is true. But if you believe it is false, then you have to come up with a ratio such that it is indeed equal to square root of 2. Or if you square that ratio, you get 2. You can't. You need to prove that that's the case. Tax rate applicable to the next dollar is called the marginal tax rate, not average. This is basically a definitional issue. I mean, it's so definitional, I didn't even cover it in the class. Presumably, you're reading the book. Income statement records expenses based on the recognition principle. No. Recognition is for the revenues. Expenses are based on the matching. Shareholders' equity is equal to fixed assets minus long-term debt plus net working capital. We kind of wrote this down, but you know, we could also show. Shareholders' equity and total equity mean the same thing. Correct? That's the basic accounting identity. Total assets are current assets plus net fixed assets. Total liabilities are current liabilities minus long-term debt. Group these together. And recognize that net working capital. So shareholders' equity is net working capital plus net fixed assets minus what you want to call long-term debt. Is that what the statement says? Yep. That's pretty much the definition of market value. What do you think, guys? Technically, that's an accounting question, okay. You took accounting. At least you presume that you learned. They don't listen to me. I actually suggested that in the beginning of this class, the first class, let's do a test of accounting, then find out who taught you accounting, and if you haven't learned anything, hold them responsible. Yeah. They only load you. Nobody wants to be tested like that. I used that once for a guy who was up for tenure. This guy had beautiful teaching evaluations. I mean, in finance, it's not that easy. He averaged 4.5, okay? And I like it, and I'm a good teacher. I never broke 4.3 in my best years. This guy averaged over 5 years, 4.5. And he also had some publications, good service, so on paper he looks great. But I knew he wasn't teaching. About 2 years before that, just to cover my own because I was a senior finance faculty. I made all the finance sections, basic finance sections to the common exam. My students outperformed the rest by 10 points. Okay? Because my dean at that point didn't like me at all. He was looking for a reason not to tenure me. I basically wrote at the beginning of my tenure application, my students blow the others out of the water. Done. But this guy's kids also took the same exam. Uh, Not counting mine, his kids were 10 points below the average of the rest. And when you actually looked at the medical questions, 25 points low. I mean, the average was 60 on those anyway. Turns out, he basically didn't teach him much. In his own exams, he didn't ask much. The kids didn't know what they were missing. So he was the greatest teacher at all. And even on, because I read the teaching evaluations when they're doing the tenure evaluation, his students say, he's a great teacher. Only that guy Esser, he made us take those hard common exams. What they didn't know, he actually selected those questions by a committee. We had 4 finance professors. If 3 or 4 agreed on a question, that was included in the pool. So it wasn't me who selected. But he must have told them that was the case. And I'm thinking, this guy doesn't belong in the classroom, so what am I going to do? I already had the results for the common exams, because they were done through my Blackboard stuff. I asked our department AA at the time, I said, get me the transcripts of all the students who have taken, at that time it was called Finance 300, over the last 5 years. She did. And I followed them into, if they were finance majors, the Finance 301. You're thinking a finance major is going to do okay in Finance 301. For professors other than him, over 5 years, there was not a single case of getting anything below C. Typically, 45 to 50% got A's, right? And among his students, about half failed first time they took it. There was only 1 A over 5 years. Voila, mic drop. That problem didn't exist then. That's all. And we didn't change it. I guess after that, nobody wants to do common exams because it could be used as evidence against you. If you're not teaching, it should be. Okay, who's going to tell me an answer for this? I'm the one who pulled that all-nighter. Come on. You're going to make me come with a water spray. Why? Why? First of all, you don't get a liability for a cost. Suppose I purchased raw materials by cash and I used it, but it's an expense for production, but I didn't create any liability. If I bought it on credit, yes, I created a liability, but that is not the principle. The matching principle basically says the expenses that you have made are actual accrual, doesn't matter, in order to produce that revenue. Okay? Things like salary of the CEO doesn't count, because you were going to pay that guy whether or not you sold 10 shoes or 100 shoes. Rent for the headquarters doesn't count. Salary of CFO doesn't count. The money you paid to the cleaning company, janitors, doesn't count, because that's not going to affect how much that is being produced. That's what matching principle says. Find the expenses that were necessary to produce that revenue and add them up. Okay. If anybody misses this question, just come to class having sprayed yourself first. I won't even bother spraying if you use this first. Remember, at home, in an exam with excitement and stress, things happen. I get it. But you're at home. It's open book, open everything. You have no time limit. You can even call a friend. What do I know? I'm not there. So what is this? When you do your operations, what happens? You make money or lose money. So that's the income stream.